websites.
Of course, they belong to Mark Zuckerberg. Good afternoon, everyone. Just admitting more of my guests into the room. One of those faces you should recognize very readily. Not only has she been on my Facebook Lives before, hi Temi, but also she is, I like to call her famous. Yep, she's certainly famous within my world. And that's Miss Sherry Ann Dixon. Say hi, Sherry.
Hello, everybody. Hello, England.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, everyone.
I'm doing my royal wave.
Sherry, do you need to introduce yourself? Do you need to give them any background into who you are?
I think you should always do that.
I think so. So go right ahead. The first woman of British media. That's what I call it, you know.
Oh, thanks. It's good Sunday blessings. Thank you. I am Sherry Ann Dixon, and I'm a multi-award. Oh no, I forgot a word. International multi-award motivational speaker. Prior to that, I was editors of Applied Magazine, She Caribbean Magazine, and for a short while, roaming editor for Essence Magazine. Is that good enough?
That is excellent, Sherry. Thank you very much. We got Dr. Kevin Brown joining us. He's just connecting his audio. We'll come to him in a second. Ladies before gentlemen today. So Temi, would you like to introduce yourself, where you are actually? Because I think we all know that Sherry is in Guyana as we speak.
Okay. Hi, my name is Temi, Temi Adijon or Temi Akinya, and I currently am in Tobago, the island of Tobago, sister island of Tobago, part of Trinidad and Tobago, as you all know. I actually was in London up until late last year, but luckily left to return here in November. I'm a solicitor by profession. I'm a partner in a UK law firm, and I also practice out here in Trinidad and Tobago. So that's kind of, my background of what I do. The past 8 years, I've been basically mainly in the Caribbean mainly Caribbean based, but obviously with the UK connection, I'm back and forth quite a lot as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Temi.
Okay.
And thank you again for joining us with what I consider relatively short notice. Now this next gentleman, me and him, for those of you who don't really speak Jamaican, you may need a translator. He's become posh, so him can't talk patois anymore. Him come out to the ghetto, and suddenly him all posh. Hi, Kevin, we have you now. So give me a second. I'll come to you in a second. Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
But me and this gentleman have been sparring, as we put it, on Facebook. Had the privilege of meeting him once. He came to a function I had, and it was great to be there.
Twice. We met twice.
As I go.
Yeah. So you remember the first time I met you was at the Brockwell Wine Bar.
Wasn't memorable. I forgot.
Okay, sorry. Politics.
I do remember indeed, my look. Errol, introduce yourself for the people who may not know you.
Okay, so listen, I'm not as distinguished and as famous as you guys. I'm just an ordinary Jamaican, as Paul says, but I'm passionate about Jamaica. I grew up in Jamaica like Paul, but I was born in the UK. So I went to high school, as you can see, my famous cap, the best school in the country. So listen, I resided in the UK for 30 years and met an amazing woman. She lives in New York. We got married. And she invited me to join her in New York. So I now live in New York as a house husband, and I spend my time, just on social media, just keeping busy, and here we are in the middle of COVID-19, and I'm delighted and honored that Paul has invited me on a chat, because whatever we can do to assist the Caribbean, Jamaica, I want to be a part of that. And I know Kevin has been elected as the representative for the diaspora in the UK, for the Jamaica, and yeah, whatever I can do to help, I will do. And like Paul says, I grew up in the inner city in Jamaica, so I understand it. I am now posh, as he says, so I understand the posh side as well. So yeah, whatever we can do, let's just do it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that intro, Errol. It's very important. I know that, when it comes to discussions like this, we're all very much passionate about our islands. So I've really tried to get more people from different islands. Have a gentleman who is very, very busy right now. I won't say his name, but he's planning to join me shortly. Yes, Andrew, he is from Barbados. So I've tried to reach out to the other islands. And by the way, anybody at all who's out there today and you rep one of the other islands, just drop me an inbox into my Facebook feed, and I'll drop you the invite into this Zoom meeting. First time we're doing this, but I want to do that because I don't want it to be overly Jamaica centric. Yeah, you know, which is very easy to do because everybody I know is from Jamaica, and those who aren't want to be. So, yeah, I kind of understand that.
Even I'm from Jamaica, so it's like,
you know what I mean. So
yeah.
if you're from St. Kitts, St. Vincent, Grenada, Martinique, St. Lucia, and you'd like to join today, today's a great day. Just drop me a line on Facebook, and I'll drop you the link to the event to join. Okay, so we're gonna go to my fourth guest, who is Dr. Kevin Brown. Kevin is I'll let him tell you who he is exactly. Kevin.
Well, can you hear me, Paul?
Very clearly.
Okay. Right. Good afternoon, everyone, and it's a pleasure
Kevin.
to join you on this live stream today. Well, a bit about myself, very briefly. I was recently elected as the UK North representative for the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council. And if you've not heard of the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, it's a consultative body that was recently established by the Jamaican government in order to better facilitate engagement between Jamaica and the diaspora globally. So it has Jamaicans who live around the world who sit on this council, and it allows us to sort of communicate our concerns to the government, but also for the government to share their views and policies as well. It's a very new body insofar as we had elections in December last year, and we're just about to launch the council. That launch has been disrupted somewhat by the COVID-19 pandemic, so we will see how things evolve in the coming months. But I'm also the chairman of the Jamaican Diaspora UK, which is an organization that was started way back in 2005. And it's a national organization that seeks to protect the interests of Jamaicans in the UK, but also to assist in nation building in Jamaica. And we have 9 regions across the United Kingdom where we have regional coordinators that allow us to sort of be able to communicate locally with Jamaicans wherever they may live across the United Kingdom. I think more generally, I have been for some time been involved in community organizations, mostly where I live in the Midlands and in the North, and have dealt with a range of issues, including most recently, justice for Windrush victims, immigration and deportation, the safety of returning residents, something I know Paul is quite passionate about. And also the national diaspora policy, which the government is currently putting through Parliament. And another concern of mine is youth engagement and how can we also get the Jamaican government to improve the services it provides to the diaspora. But saying all of that, that's all voluntary. My actual day job is as an engineer and a project manager at a global aerospace company. And I also, I'm a radio broadcaster as well, and I host a talk show on a community radio station in Nottingham where I live. The radio station is called 97.5 Kemet FM. And finally,
are they going to pay for that? Are they going to pay for that advert?
Well, we can have those discussions, Paul. It was a small plug, but suffice to say, by the way, I do that voluntarily. So for several years now, I've been doing it. But yeah, we can negotiate afterwards. but yeah, as I said, finally that, I was born and bred in Jamaica, grew up there, spent more than half my life there, and then moved to the UK to pursue tertiary studies. I've been here 19 years later, so, I did come with the idea of I'd just do 3 to 5 years, but somehow things have escalated. So I'm still here, but, we'll see where things evolve in the future. But my grandparents rather, were also part of the Windrush generation. So my grandfather came here in the 1950s. My grandmother joined him a few years later, and then they returned home in 1995. Sadly, I've lost them, but yeah. So that's a bit about me, and as I said, looking forward to the conversation.
Excellent, thank you, Kevin. While our last and final planned guest joins, I can see his name flashing up. Won't say anything more. I'd just like to introduce myself. When you have such esteemed people on the chat, you have to try and see if you can match them. So here's my introduction as to who I am. I'm Paul. So today's topic is something which is dear to my heart, and I apologize now for anybody who feels there's a bit of a Jamaican bias. I have tried to reach out to people I know from the other islands, and again, I'm going to repeat, as I will do throughout the show, I'll repeat the fact that this is an open show today. I'm hoping that there are people who will inbox me via Facebook and join us from the other islands. I'll say this early, especially St. Lucia. And there's a massive big up for St. Lucia, and I can see Temmie's head going because you know where this is going.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know what? Our Caribbean islands, on the screen I have in front of me over here, I have a list of all the COVID cases throughout the world, and I have a list of, how it's all broken down, how many tests, how many people have had it, how many people have recovered, all sorts of statistics. But I think there's only one country in the world that can claim that every one of their previous people are now cured. Yeah, they have now gone from any amount they had to everybody being cured and everybody, no deaths, everybody's alive, and that's fine. And that is truly, truly something to be proud of. If you're from St. Lucia, it is worth saying a massive big up to that. Yep. So if there is somebody out there from St. Lucia, whether you're in St. Lucia yourself or you're just on Facebook, however you like to have a word, please be free. Yeah. So Natalia, I don't know how come you're not even on this thing already. Yeah, because you are one of those people who's always on the show. I'm going to send you the link. So if you want to join in and have a quick word with us, that would be very welcome. So the gist of today's show is very simple. Very, very simple. What we're hoping is not to dwell on the grimness, the badness. Anybody who's watched the show a couple of times will know that we're really into that. What we are more into, and what we're trying to do, is to talk about life after COVID, because we know a day is coming when this thing's going to lift, this thing will be gone, and it's really now a matter of what can we do as people living in the diaspora to help our countries to recover. Yeah, that's what the conversation today is about. That's what we're trying to speak about. Because at the end of the day, this morning I was watching some VE Day programs on Channel 5, and it was talking about the state, the UK, and I suspect other nations were in after the war. We're talking about 6 years. There was a clip that had a part of St. Paul's Cathedral right in the background, and Trafalgar Square. You could recognize all of these places. And it was very clear to me that they had 6 years of war. World War II is always called one of the great wars. And here we are, a number of years later. Totally, a lot of people don't even remember, don't think about, we're not living under those same conditions anymore. Everything's kind of cool. So the point I'm trying to make is this. There will be a day after COVID. just like there was a day after the 6 years of war. So, you know, we're getting a bit uptight now about things like being on lockdown is causing us all sorts of different grief. But they went through this for 6 years. The country recovered. It turned the corner. Whatever it is. We have an opportunity now as people who love whatever country we happen to come from in the Caribbean. And look, if you come from Africa and the continent itself and you want to pitch in, now's as good a time as any. Let's be clear. But we have to have plans. We can't afford to simply pretend as if it's going to fix itself. We can't afford to pretend as if we don't have a role to play in helping to fix it. And so that's what this call is about today. This call is about run to joke about the last time we went home. You know, I was talking about the fact that if you've never had a fry fish that comes straight from the sea into the pan, you really don't know what fry fish tastes like. Yeah, until you've had that experience, you really don't know what fish really tastes like.
Absolutely.
Yep. So we want to talk about what we would like to do. What are the sort of things that we're hearing the buzz? You know, where I live here, I'm hearing people talking about a local street party, and then we're not even out of lockdown yet. So it's not premature for us to start talking about what we'd like to do. But before we crack into that, I think it's only appropriate that I introduce the fourth person who has joined us, Mr. Barry Thomas. Barry, introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Barry Thomas. I'll be with you for a short time, as Paul knows, but yes, happy to make my contribution.
Is that it? That's it. I hear you, Barry. Look, it's great to have you guys on the call. More important than anything else, I wanted to try and get a nice spread because these conversations can be very much Jamaica-centric. And as we all know, everybody tried to tell me that Jamaica is not the whole Caribbean. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna put Barry on the spot because Barry is a man who probably has to leave early. Barry, if you don't know, is actually running his own radio show at the same time, but joined us anyway. So we're very, very grateful for his time. Barry, quickly, in terms of your thoughts, what do you think, if you're a Bajan lover, Caribbean lover, what are the sort of things that should be going through our minds now about after COVID?
Well, I think industry, we have to look at how industry runs quite differently now. And all of the West Indian islands, Caribbean islands, whichever you care to call it, have always depended wholly and solely or predominantly on tourism, which now will have to change because even if travel comes back with what is happening with the airlines, it's going to be a lot more expensive. It was already creeping up the prices. So, you know, to a degree, some of the places tourism was falling. So definitely, I think tourism will be affected. So we have to look at other things. Definitely going back to agriculture because we have the climate there in the Caribbean and we let all of that go over years. So I think we definitely have to look back at, as the Caribbean nations, redeveloping our agricultural export.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, I saw a number of conversations this week, and one of the major points that people are bringing out is that, you know, the almost universal, you know, dependence on tourism has shown itself to be a bit of an Achilles heel.
And the thing is,
the
island seems to have left it long till there is a crisis. Now that nowhere else to turn. But this was happening years ago, from back in the 70s, 80s, when my father was around. He was very politically minded, and he would always be talking about the fact that, you know, the Caribbean islands were totally reliant and dependent on tourism. And suppose something happens that affects that, obviously then all of your economy is affected. They've left it till the last minute when that has actually happened. And now everyone's running around like headless chickens, thinking of new ways to boost their economy. And even if they do think of new ways to boost their economy, it's not going to happen overnight. It will take time to recover.
Let me go to Sherry, because, you know, me and Sherry have stayed in touch and we've had conversations about how things are developing in Guyana. And even before COVID, I'm pretty aware via Sherry that there's been developments in terms of the economy and the potential for change through oil, I believe it is, Sherry?
Yes, we have found oil to the point that everybody seems to want to come to Guyana, you know, because it's now the place that you can make some money, not just from the oil, because not everybody's going to invest in oil, but the other things that surround oil. So major companies are now coming into Guyana. When you start seeing the KFCs, you know, forgive me, but those things turn up, and other big companies, Cafe Nero and stuff like that, you know that you then have a big following, European and maybe American following that's coming in. They're even to the point where we were now getting ready to talk about training people for tourism, because they're really not ready here for that. You know, they still serve at 3 miles per hour. You want some tea, you want sugar in your tea. So hello, there's a queue behind you. They're not ready here for tourism. So we were just getting ready for the influx of people that will be coming to Guyana. So I'm actually quite worried from that point that might slow down, because all the people that come via Barbados. Sorry, Barry, from Barbados and from Trinidad. And then we've got direct flights that were coming in from America, which American Airlines have come, and there's lots of different airline companies that suddenly started saying they're coming to Guyana. So I'm not sure what's going to happen now, but I do know that because there is so much land that's not developed in Guyana, people are actually talking about buying land and planting. I know a lady who has bought land, and now she's going to start harvesting her avocados. I was thinking, but why didn't you do that in the first place? Why were we importing avocados?
I think Guyana is in a slightly different position, because from what you're describing, this COVID crisis is now offering an opportunity for Guyana to develop. Whereas Guyana is in a totally different category. Number one, it's a country and a part of a continent. It's not an island. And Guyana never depended on tourism as an industry or an economic benefit. So it's in a totally different stratosphere from Antigua, St. Lucia, Barbados, Jamaica, where we depended on tourism.
I think
about people going to Guyana to develop business.
I think it's an opportunity, because what I'm hearing, and you know, I was looking through the pages of the Gleaner online this morning, and the thing I was looking at, I was seeing 4 gentlemen breaking ground at some sort of a hemp farm, and these 4 gentlemen were of a very specific hue, to put it very politely. And it occurred to me that whilst it is instinctive for us to complain that these gentlemen of a very specific hue are now in Jamaica benefiting from, let's not call it weed, but that's what I'm benefiting from.
Yeah.
The reality of the matter is we have very, very rich Nigerians, we have very, very rich Ghanaians, we have very, very rich Black people in the UK, very rich Black people in the US. We have rich people in Jamaica. We have rich people in Trinidad. We have rich people all over. But they are not coming forward. I don't know. Someone can educate me on this. And they're not the ones coming forward and making these investments. Yep. So whilst I was a bit gutted,
it's almost as if they don't have.
So when I listen to Sherry and what Sherry is saying, what I'm hearing is investment opportunity. Yeah. So I'm hearing an opportunity for us, for people to get together and think about where do we want to do our investments in the next year? Do we want to buy another house in Lincoln or Birmingham, or do we want to go and buy a couple of acres and plant some avocado in Guyana? You know? Yeah. But I'm leaving the Jamaicans till last on purpose, because I don't want to stay. Yeah, it could take a while. So Temi, as a Jamaican, but in Trinidad Tobago, Twin Island state, tell us about what people are thinking about after COVID.
Well, like people have mentioned here, Trinidad and Tobago, particularly Tobago, has a high dependency on tourism as well. And I already know that people have obviously lost their jobs, with what's going on, hotels being shut down, and projects obviously having to be halted, and so on and so forth. Trinidad also has obviously a very strong oil and gas industry as well, which obviously with a drop in oil prices, that's also affected the economy. It's had obviously an effect on the economy in Trinidad and Tobago as well. So I think from the country's point of view as well, economically, again, the dependency on tourism, how to move away from that, because also we've got Carnival in Trinidad in February. Obviously, it's during the period February-March. Luckily, obviously, before COVID really took off or blew up, Carnival took place in February, and so it wasn't affected this year. But I know there are serious discussions at the moment as to whether it should be held next year, because obviously we don't know whether there's going to be a second wave and all the rest of it. And although Trinidad has done well, obviously, in terms of the management of the virus here, we don't know what's going to happen once the borders are reopened properly for tourism. So I think from Trinidad and Tobago's point of view, looking at diversifying in relation to, not so much dependence on tourism, particularly in Tobago. A lot of people I know are looking more and more to agriculture as well, as has been mentioned, because there is lots of land here in Tobago as well. My husband plants and sells foodstuffs already, and I think that is one way. But also, I think from the diaspora's point of view, supporting small growers, planters, I think would be very good, and everybody could benefit, because you've got a potential market for export of what you grow, and then also I'm sure they could do with the financial support in terms of buying supplies, agricultural supplies, and those type of things to help them farm. There's a lot of people. It's one thing in terms of the government being able to support people who have lost formal jobs, and even that is limited. But people who are selling fruits and vegetables on the streets or on the roadside, for them it's going to be a lot more difficult to pick back up. So I think that's where, in terms of looking for support in the future, those are some of the areas I think that need to be looked at, in my respectful view.
Mr. Donna,
yes,
I'm allowed to call him Mr. Donna. Those who know the joke know the joke.
Yes, you are, sir. Okay, Paul. So just to add to what Barry said and Sherry said. So like you said, Paul, I'm Jamaican, and I see COVID-19 as an opportunity, because my background, I'm an accountant, but I'm a cost accountant, so I'm a manufacturing accountant. So I'm very kind of different to most accountants or financial accountants. So I believe in manufacturing, and one of my biggest disappointments in Jamaica was the way we focus so much on tourism, and COVID-19 has exposed Jamaica and a lot of the Caribbean islands, because we're so dependent on that. Now, it's not all doom and gloom, and that's one of the messages I want to get across to people, is that we have an opportunity here now to just kind of revisit what Jamaica's about, and how we started out, in the 17th, 18th century, when we were providing the world with sugar. We have the fertile land for agriculture, and when you ask the question, and Kevin will touch on that when we talk about what the diaspora can do. There's so much we can do, because I've been doing some research as I've been home, because I moved from UK to New York, so I've been here just kind of deciding what next am I going to do. And I've been making calls into Jamaica, and there's so much going on. There's the Agro Invest that people can go on. Agro Invest Corporation is doing so much in terms of business. and us in the diaspora are able to tap into that. So just to explain what AgriInvest does. So they have these lands. You go there, and it's kind of like in the UK where you have these plots. So your little guy just goes back and does a bit of farming.
Your allotment.
Allotment, exactly. So AgriInvest is kind of like that. So they share the equipment. So you buy this land and you say, you know what, I want to invest in growing ginger or some type of produce, and it's all safe, it's all protected. The equipment's on there, and collectively they help you to harvest. And what it predominantly was doing was supplying to the tourist industry. What we saw this week was, because the tourists, the hotels and all stuff have been closed down and shut down because of the obvious, there was the introduction of the farmers market in Barbican. This week, there was a roadblock. As you know, Barbican Football Ground was right adjoining to King's House, where the Governor General lived, right behind Jamaica House. There were roadblocks for people trying to buy produce, because in Jamaica, we're reliant on the supermarkets. The supermarkets are importing because the farmers were predominantly providing the hotels. Now the hotels are closed. The farmers are saying, what are we going to do with our produce? And quick thinking on behalf of the government and the authorities said, you know what, let's bring the produce to Kingston and the surrounding areas. And that was quick thinking, fantastic mobilization of bodies, and the farmers market worked. And now people are thinking, you know what, that's probably something we need to do. Not ban imports, but you know what, be sensible about imports. Let's eat what we grow. And that's where we become less reliant on tourism. And when we talk about opportunities, that's one of the things, as a diaspora, that's what I'm looking at. Paul, I say it all the time, I'm from the city. I don't even have a parish in the country because my grandparents were born in Kingston. But now I'm talking to my wife, because my wife's from St. Elizabeth, that I want to go into farming. And that's something that we as a collective in the diaspora, and I'm sure Kevin is going to talk about this, but also be able to assist us in how we can get involved with government to talk about how we can get involved in farming.
I think what is very important is about to have this diversity of thought, because for too long our thought has been very narrow and on one focus, and it's been tourism. So we have the Heart Trust in Jamaica, which is dedicated to raising people who will work in the tourist industry. If we go internationally, we have the tourists, I think it's in the Bahamas, where the UWI campus there is focused on tourism, and a lot of things throughout the Caribbean. I've not had the privilege of going to all the islands, but the ones I have gone to, it is very similar. Even though we have our argument, we're all very much the same. I turned up in St. Lucia, and I could have been anywhere in Jamaica. It's all the same, and the dependencies. And I know Sherry's laughing because I know Guyana will be very different from all of the rest of us.
Yeah.
But the similarities are there. And until
I agree with you, there are far more similarities than
absolutely.
differences. Yeah. And I think now is actually an opportunity, as the gentleman was saying. I don't know what you called him. I'm going to call him Errol. I don't know what you called him, but I'm going to call him Errol. As
Larry, I will share the Mr. Dunham with you at a later time.
Okay. I think now it is an opportunity to look at other things and, as you say, not be so focused on just the one thing, golden beaches and bright sun and all of that. And actually, if we could come together as the Caribbean to support each other through it, best together, it might make a difference.
I think it would. And I also would say as well, a lot of the things that we import, in terms of fruit and vegetables, a lot of those things we can grow here in the Caribbean. And I think in terms of like inter-Caribbean trade of these type of things as well, will help, the respective economies as well. There's very little that can't grow here in the Caribbean, and the amount that we spend on importing goods and the amount that food costs here, it's even in comparison to the UK, you really wouldn't believe.
I actually would believe. I'd like to bring in And I like to call people by the right respectful title, you know, which is why I call Errol Mrs. Donna, because that's who he is. Yeah. Dr. Kevin Brown. Yeah, we in Jamaica, we love a title, you know, so leave me alone. Kevin, you head up and you are part of an organized group who very much, you know, I know Diaspora UK, their focus is about making that connection between people living in diaspora and in this case, Jamaica, and looking at how we can help. So I think right now is like prime time. And, you know, you would have saw weeks ago the post I put in the group about us starting to make our plans. So are there any plans afoot, even if it's just in your head, my head? Talk to us.
Right, thanks, Paul, and it was great to hear the views of the other panelists as well. Yeah, you know, in terms of diaspora engagement, and you know, apologies if I'm a bit Jamaica-centric here, but it is the diaspora that I'm more familiar with. There's a lot more that we can do. So Jamaica is quite unique in the sense that we have around 3 million people who live outside of Jamaica. And these people contribute already significantly to Jamaican GDP through remittances. The challenge we have with how we give back to Jamaica is that remittances, and this is not just unique to Jamaica, but remittances are being used for personal upkeep rather than investing in business. So as much as we may complain about quote unquote foreigners coming into Jamaica and investing in hotels and other industries, we in the diaspora, unfortunately, despite sending lots of money home, it's not investment money. We do invest in property, but not so much in business. And I think this is where we need to make a step change in terms of how do we invest in Jamaica. So we can complain about others going in there and investing, but we also need to perhaps reflect on how we could do it better. I wanted to touch on a couple other things as well in terms of what was discussed before. Agriculture certainly has a significant role to play. Unfortunately, during IMF structural adjustment, Jamaica's economy was forced to open up, right? And we have never, at least no government since, has tried to sort of adjust that. But I think that with COVID-19 and perhaps in the Trump era, we're seeing a sort of crumbling of globalization. And more countries are now willing to look at their own personal benefit in terms of what they can produce for their own people. And it might be an opportunity for Jamaica to say, okay, maybe we now need to protect some markets. Maybe we now need to look at what are we importing and look at how, from a government perspective, we could either encourage those locally or overseas to invest in agriculture. Take, for example, something like rice. Jamaicans eat a lot of rice. We don't grow a grain of rice in Jamaica, right? So either we need to look at, well, can we wean Jamaicans off rice or start growing rice in Jamaica, right? You know, we import quite a bit from the Guyanese, great, but a lot of it actually comes also from America. During structural adjustment, when we opened up our economy, we were importing things like onions. Why? You know, we were importing all the agricultural products that we can produce in Jamaica. And we are producing it because one of the things that came to light during COVID is that a lot of our farmers are actually selling produce to hotels, right? Which they can't do at the moment. So we can produce the food to feed Jamaicans. The problem is the cost point because we have an open economy. I think Jamaica should be bold enough to look at, well, okay, should we be applying tariffs to certain food products so to stimulate local production, right, and to make agriculture more attractive. And on the part of CARICOM, because I'm like you, Paul, my ideology is more sort of regionalist, and I wish CARICOM would work for us. There was the Bruce Golden report on CARICOM, and the problem we have with CARICOM is that on paper, CARICOM is a beautiful institution and certainly integrates the Caribbean. But in reality, very few governments have implemented the policies or the spirit of the policies that underline CARICOM. And we've seen those challenges. So if you look at things like freedom of movement, we've seen where Jamaicans have had issues in Barbados and Trinidad, even though on paper, we have freedom of movement in the Caribbean.
Yeah, but what kind of troublesome though,
Very,
Kevin?
yeah,
So,
it's definitely not like the EU version.
yeah, have to be careful. You know,
I've
we're
had
kind
my
of
own
troublesome when we
experience
turn up.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Okay, well, I'll move swiftly on that.
Yeah.
But in terms of trade, we certainly could and should do better. I mean, Jamaica, for example, imports a lot of refined petroleum products, right? And could we be doing that more within our CARICOM space, because we know that we have petroleum producing countries. The other big thing, Paul, that we need to discuss as well, you know, my friend Errol spoke about manufacturing. Well, why would you want to manufacture in a country where the cost of energy is so expensive? The energy prices, the cost of energy in Jamaica is one of the highest in the world, right? And my question is, with so much sunshine, we are sitting on the equator, why hasn't the government looked seriously at renewable energy, in particular solar energy, in an attempt to bring down the cost of energy, so as to make it easier for industry to grow, you know, and just looking at the whole sort of public energy sector, and why is it so expensive? You know, because I think that that's something that government needs to push now in terms of weaning people off JPS, looking at microgrids for people who live really rural. And we know the difference that electricity can make to a people and to the wider economy as well. So we need to look at renewable energy and perhaps use COVID-19 to push that narrative more in Jamaica.
Just on the point, Kevin, just on the point of renewable energy, because I am about as non-partisan as anybody else can be. And so whenever I have a conversation about whichever country it is, the UK, Jamaica, it doesn't matter, and somebody says government needs to, I pull a little breath, because if I was an investor wanting to plant a factory in Jamaica, yeah, part and parcel of my business model would be something to mitigate against the high prices. So I would be building my factory and every single roof in a place like Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, whatever you want to call it, would have a solar panel on the rooftop. So I wouldn't see it as a sort of barrier, because the first thing I would be doing is let me handle my business. Because guess what? Governments change. Yeah, governments change, government policies change. So I tend to negate government, and I'm talking about what if I was an investor, look at what that singer Akon has done in Africa, what he has done, and what he's proposing and what he's building. Yeah, there's a power station. I was talking about on another show in the week. There's a power station in the US. Now listen to what they have done. Because they have excess power being generated from the power station, they knocked out one of their buildings, and you know what they installed in it? A Bitcoin farm.
Well,
because Bitcoin's biggest thing to generate them is the power. And right now, as a building, they are now earning more from Bitcoin than they are from the transmission of power. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we need to, in this diversity of thought that we're trying to apply, we need to be applying across the board. The sunshine remains free. Them no tax it yet.
Solar and wind.
I'm sure they will.
Solar and wind. That is the
but
way
not yet. So we have to look at that.
Yes,
but I think
wind.
the government can stimulate that.
Somebody has the program broadcasting.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that better?
Well,
I'm not sure.
Or if you
Well,
mute, I guess. Well, yeah. No, just quickly in response to that, Paul. I agree. You know, there has to be a push-pull, but I think the Jamaican government needs to stimulate the interest of investors and have a clear energy policy going forward, right? In years gone by, they had focused on LNG. I'm not sure if that is going to bring the benefits that we're seeking in terms of renewable energy. Maybe in terms of clean energy or cleaner energy, maybe. But I think that there should now be a massive push towards renewable energy. And government has a role to play, Paul. Government can stimulate investors like yourself to who want to apply renewable energy to your plants to do that. And we know we've seen that in Europe, whether it be through cash incentives or just through policy. The other thing I wanted to touch on quickly, Paul, is on the health system and the health of people in the diaspora, but also back home in the Caribbean. In Jamaica, in particular, the health system was not in a good state before COVID-19, right? And there've been reports on the state of the health system there, and we've seen where the government has tried to make attempts to improve it, but I've always said that they don't have enough money to complete the job. So, for example, in Jamaica, you've heard about perhaps the Adopt a Clinic program, where they're asking people in the diaspora to adopt a clinic, where you'd fund the clinic and purchase equipment as required, right? And that's an ongoing program. So I would say that a key focus for any government going forward, especially in Jamaica, is how do you fix your health system and make it world class? Because at the moment it's not performing, right? And COVID-19 right now, although Jamaica clearly has a strategy and a plan, I think if we see a continued escalation in the number of cases in Jamaica, then it could be. We will run out of healthcare capacity very quickly in the country. And in terms of health, by extension, know that we're hearing that African Caribbean people, African Americans are being disproportionately affected by COVID-19, primarily, some would argue, because of our comorbidity, the comorbidity issues, i.e. diabetes, hypertension, etc. We now need to look at, how do we improve our health? This is something that we can do ourselves, right? Do we need to look at our diet? We love our yam and banana or rice, but guess what? If you're not energetic, those same foods will make you fat because it's all carbohydrates, right? So we're not living like we used to 10, 20 years ago. We are very sedentary. We sit down, we drive around, and maybe, I know the Jamaican government has a thing called Jamaica Moves, which you can access on Facebook, by the way, in terms of exercise classes and so on. But I think there now needs to be a push within the diaspora for people living overseas who are of African Caribbean heritage to look at your health again, look at what you're eating. You can still cook your Jamaican food, but maybe reduce the proportions, reduce the salt. And I think we now need to really push that home. And likewise, I think there's more that Caribbean governments could do to look at what's the state of health in the Caribbean and how we could have a Caribbean-wide health promotion around looking at the food we eat and getting people to be more active. Because, even now I'm sure most of you visit your home countries, people are driving, very few people are exercising, and perhaps, as soon as you touch 30, your sporting activities fall off as well. So there is a rising healthcare problem, which we can see coronavirus, unfortunately, is highlighting.
Just to add on that, in terms of in the diaspora, one of the things as well that people obviously that we will disproportionately suffer from is a lack of vitamin D, which is exceedingly important in terms of your immune system as well. And most of us who are in the diaspora, because obviously look at the UK, how much sunlight you get in a year, most of us in the diaspora are vitamin D deficient. And so, it's really important in that sense to try and maybe take supplements or foods that are high in vitamin D content to, just to help boost the immune system, obviously vitamin C, but vitamin D is an exceedingly important part of that as well. Which I know, is lacking in places with little sunlight and a lot of rain. So, as well as other issues that obviously we know that Black people face in Europe generally, which aren't necessarily just, physical health related, but also in terms of, treatment, admissions to hospitals and those type of things. And also in terms of housing and those type of things, which obviously contribute to the transmission, the spread of the illness as well. So that was just my.
So if we talk back about what we can do in the diaspora and the opportunities that COVID-19 is presenting. So as a business person, as an accountant, and I look at the opportunity in Jamaica. So if you look at Jamaica right now, so prior to COVID-19 and the economy, the world economy takes down, the Jamaica Stock Exchange was one of the best performing stock exchanges in the world. So let's not forget that. Now, when we talk about energy, so oil prices are down. So the government now needs to step up and do forward purchasing of oil as it's as cheap as right now. Also, but let's not forget that we had an IPO on Wigton Farm, which are the fans, so generating solar energy. So those things are happening, and that is something that Kevin, with the diaspora body and the government, should promote in terms of us as investing in opportunities like that. But also, the most important thing that we need to remember right now, as being the diaspora, when Kevin talked about remittances, right now, a lot of businesses are going to be struggling in Jamaica from a cash flow point of view, because banks are holding onto their money, revenues are down. If you have cash in the diaspora, now is the time to look to Jamaica. Now, I can tell you, I grew up in Jamaica. I've lived out of the UK. I've had so much investments in Jamaica. I've never lost a single penny. Never, we're concerned right now because the Bank of Jamaica have told companies not to pay any dividends. I think that's kind of a bad move. I understand why, but I think they need to revisit that, because when you're as an investor, you want your dividend payments. And I think that the Bank of Jamaica need to revisit that. It's not alarming. Jamaica's never, ever, ever reneged on any of its debts. So people need to understand that, their money's safe. But we in the diaspora, land, now you can, I've been looking on sites in Jamaica now. There's a site called JRFI, the Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation, Inc. Now, if you want to buy land, go on that site. There are properties on there. People are now reducing the price of land, housing, because cash is king. If you have cash in the diaspora, this is the time to go down and start doing stuff. On the stock exchange again. You look at our stock exchange, you look at companies. The IPO the other day, Trans Jamaica, the highway, the largest IPO ever launched in Jamaica, 17 billion, right? And it started out at 140. When it came to market, it came out about 118. It's now back up to 140. So nobody's losing money. So let's be sensible. But Kevin, what I implore you to do with your colleagues is educate the diaspora, because a lot of people don't know these opportunities are happening. And there's so much to be made, not only in Jamaica but in the other Caribbean islands. We just need to be more aware of what's going on. But for me, I just look for IPOs that are happening and just say, let me dive in. Just like you trade anywhere in the world, New York or London, the same happens with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
I think I'd like to direct this question to Barry, because what Errol was just talking about in terms of the Jamaica stock market, I knew about that, and I knew about a program of trying to inform Jamaicans in the diaspora about opportunities to invest. Is there a similar thing going on for Barbados? And Temi, I don't know, Sherry, is there a similar sort of thing taking place? Barry, is there such a thing?
There is such a thing, and they've been encouraging people to invest in it for quite a few years. I know it's probably the last 15 years that I personally invested in it. That's when I found out about it. But there has been that initiative going on to get people to invest in the country and in the stock market of Barbados. So yeah, it's been going on a while. But as you were saying, you don't look to the government for the guidance. I agree with you to a degree, but I do think that the governments need to start up these initiatives to not only inform people, but encourage them and let them feel that it's a safe bet to invest in the country, and that they will be supported in doing so. Because that's mainly people's concern, that if their investments are not gonna pay back, are they gonna lose a lot? So I think that the government's involvement is important and quite necessary.
Okay, tell me, what's the view from
well, I know that
Tobago?
Trinidad has Trinidad and Tobago have a stock exchange as well, which, you know, and again, you know, people are encouraged to invest in the stock exchange or in companies that are floated on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. You know, in terms of whether it's performing as well as Jamaica, I don't think any stock exchange at the moment was. But it's certainly, you know, obviously there are plenty of industries in Trinidad and Tobago. It's one of the, you know, most industrial countries in the Caribbean. And, you know, because of that, the stock exchange has always been quite strong in this region as well. So yes, in terms of investment, I don't think, you know, that changes much, although obviously, as I said, because of the dependence on the oil and gas sector, companies that have, you know, got that kind of interest have taken a bit of a hit, as you can imagine, during this crisis. But again, like Errol said, that could be a window of opportunity for, you know, Trinbagonians in the diaspora to look into investing, because obviously you know, things will improve, and Trinidad and Tobago is kind of, you know, more on track into opening back up than some other countries as well. So, you know, I think it's not a bad time to look into that as well for people in the diaspora.
But can I just say that there needs to be a mental shift, right? Because
yes,
sorry.
I'm gonna have to get back to work. So thank you for inviting me.
Very, very welcome. Thank you so much for your time, Barry.
It's a pleasure, Barry.
And invite me again.
I will indeed, sir.
And I need to know this story about the Miss Donna thing.
I will, Barry. I will speak to you.
Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah, Paul, if I just could quickly make a comment. So on the need for diasporans to invest in back home in Jamaica and rest of the Caribbean, I agree completely. But I think you will have to do a bit of mental reprogramming. And I always, you know, you have to look back to go forward. From my own personal experience, there's no financial finance education program in Jamaica. We are groomed or trained to pursue education and work for someone.
Yeah.
And that has been the way we've been socialized in the Caribbean for decades, and still is the case. Go to school, get a good job, right? And I think we will need to change the way we educate people back home to say that, yes, those who are academically minded can do that, but there's a wider opportunity in terms of becoming an entrepreneur, in terms of, you know, the understanding how finance actually works. Because can you imagine, you know, how many years, very late in life, I have discovered how the finance actually works. Why should that be the case? We should be teaching that in schools. And so what you find, as I said, it goes back to my earlier point. We in the diaspora, because we're not minded like Errol to invest in the way that Errol has outlined. Instead, we just think, right, you know what, when I earn my money, I send it home for mommy for her to buy some food and pay her rent, and that's good enough. Rather than saying, well, actually, like Errol, maybe I should look at the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Why? It's one of the best performing stock exchange in the world. In the world, right? And also, property in Jamaica is a hot item, right? And we've seen a change, you could say, in terms of, for example, the growth of Airbnb in Jamaica. But what the government would want the diaspora to do more of is, for example, buying government bonds, you know, which we don't do, which we could do, right? It's a very safe way to invest. We could do a lot more investing in the country, but I think you would need to reprogram our socialization, which was go to school and get a job afterwards. You know, so there's a whole paradigm shift that needs to take place.
I think also in terms of investing as well, I think, you know, the idea of investing has to also be with the assistance of the local population in mind as well as our own personal benefit. You know, the most important thing out of it all has to also be the development of the people and the country, the human resources in our home countries as well.
And that's the question I wanted to put to Sherry, really, because if Guyana is on the cusp of a golden era through its oil finds, you know, I guess whether it's just being nostalgic and probably being a little bit naive, I would hope that the first people to benefit would be the Guyanese people, and then it would radiate out to the Caribbean. You know, we're nearby. We have UWI as a university that can produce the type of people we need to be working in the industry. Yeah. UWI is Pan-Caribbean. Yeah. Is that me just being nostalgic, or is that a dream and hope and aspiration?
I think it's going to happen, but what Guyana had was years of bad government. And so sometimes when you have that bad government, you have to then build trust in people coming back home. But recently I've noticed many people talking about coming back home. But what we tend to do in Guyana is think, well, if you build a house and you get into investment, it's are your children gonna come? What if I invest and I die? That's it. It's dead and done. I don't know about anybody else, but my children are not interested in coming back to Guyana. So why am I investing here? Those are the things that you need to educate people about. So, you know, give more information about how you could donate your money, how the money can still be coming back to England or America where they will be living. Because I don't think that we have really brought up our children in a way that we were, but I haven't brought up my children to think Guyanese. Does that make sense to anybody?
Absolutely. I hear that. And you know what? Ashamedly, I'm probably in the same sort of situation. You know, as much as I love my son to death, the boy turned English for me.
Yeah.
I think, Paul, that's a big challenge for both of us. And you know, the impact on Jamaica in 10, 20 years' time will be significant because, you know, remember I said we're contributing $2.5 billion US, the diaspora in Jamaica. And if you have a generation that is coming up that doesn't have that connection, right? Because I speak to a lot of Jamaicans and they're saying that their children are now asking them, well, Dad, why are you sending money to Jamaica? You know, so the younger generation don't
forget them. I want to.
But listen, one of the things that we have to understand, and Kevin hit the nail on the head, is our socialization and our understanding of money. And you see, one of the mentalities, you know, that we have as people from the Caribbean is that we kind of treat every business venture as a hustle, you know? And so when you're buying stuff in Jamaica, you're sending it down to somebody who told you that somebody's selling something.
Yeah,
we need to kind of step away from that, you know, everybody that you have in the UK and the United States, which is a law society, a architectural society, go on those sites and find reputable companies. You know, you're building a house, find a reputable architect, find a reputable lawyer, and get those people to carry out the transactions for you. Stop sending your money to your relatives and asking them to do stuff, because when you turn up, nothing has been done. And then they end up either killing you or you end up killing them. Now, I've never done a single transaction through any of my friends or my relatives. You know, they tell me about stuff, and then I go on there and I find a lawyer and I say, right, here's my money. We sign up contracts, it's down there. You know, when I'm doing business with the bank, I deal directly with the bank. I just started doing some business with Barrett Investment. You know, they came up, they did the roadshow. I met them, I signed up the forms. I transact my money through to them, not through a third party, none of my relatives. You know, what I send to them is their entertainment money. My investment money goes directly to the party that I'm investing in.
Yeah. Separate and apart. Look, guys, the good thing is that I am not paid for this broadcast, and I'm not paying any owner, that's for sure, because we've already gone over the normal allotted time, but I don't care because they can't cut us off. And what I want to ask, because you know what, it's been a great discussion, but what I do want to ask, back home, and you know, man like Errol from, you know, the ghetto, as him like to say, we used to have a thing when the gate fly, yeah? So, you know, you go party and you have to pay for going, but there comes a time when the gate fly, when the gate man gone gonna do him thing and it's free. So when the gate fly upon COVID and we're free, yeah, whether it's December this year or it's December next year, when we're free to travel home, what's the first thing you're gonna do, Errol?
Well, when I get there, listen, I'm gonna tell the guy to drive me straight to Hellshire. Straight to Hellshire Beach. I'm not even gonna put down my suitcase. I'm driving straight to the beach. Miss Aunt May, I'm gonna drive straight to her hut and I'm gonna order as much grilled lobster and fried fish and bami and festival and a cold red stripe, and I'm gonna get the coconut man to cut a jelly, and I'm gonna have my white rum, and I'm gonna sit there, and me and my wife are just gonna spend the entire day there and just take in the vitamin D that we've not had any of, and I'm just gonna enjoy that moment.
Sound like a plan. Kevin, your time.
Well, I mean, certainly, I probably want to follow in Errol's footsteps in terms of.
Sound like a good plan, right?
You can't really beat that one. Although I'd probably do it in Western Jamaica, where most of my family are. So I'd probably find a beach in the grill to relax. But Errol, you make a very good point, because I think the diaspora, who are now part of the tourist business, by the way, we go back to Jamaica in huge numbers, although it's not often spoken about. We will have to help to reinvigorate the tourism sector, and hopefully once the restrictions are over, Jamaicans will flock to Jamaica for pleasure, to sort of jumpstart the tourism sector as well. So I think definitely I would want to follow in Errol's way in that regard. And it'd be good to see my mom and dad and so on, because they're still there as well. So, just to visit relatives who I haven't seen in a long time would be great.
Yeah, Temi, you guys are already in the Caribbean, but I'm sure there's something that you're looking forward to doing when the gate fly. Tell me about it.
But you know what? The hardest thing is being on this lockdown. Like, I live near to the beach and I haven't been able to go to the beach for the past 6 weeks, right? And that is going to be the first place I go once this lockdown is lifted. In terms of going back to Jamaica, just to see my mum, I just want to go back to where she is in St. Anne's and give her a big hug, really.
Where in St. Anne's is she from?
She's actually from St. Thomas, but she lives in Runaway Bay.
Okay.
In Salem. Yeah, in Salem.
Yeah, I know Salem.
I was there for a month in January, but I was thinking, I'll be back in May or June, and then obviously this thing happened.
Yeah, I tell you, I don't want anybody ever tell me something about Jamaica too often, because here I am now, unable to go and
exactly.
Yep, exactly. Sherry, what's on your plot for when things release?
I would probably be coming back to England. I know.
What you want to do that for?
Maybe for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, because my children live there.
Yeah.
And so, and my grandchildren. So I need the hug, the family hug. Virtual hugs are not good enough for me.
Not the same.
So I would go back there. I wouldn't be missing. And to be quite honest, I have so much. I travel the Caribbean and I like all the food here, but I would like to go and have some jerk chicken in England.
What?
Yeah.
Well. Here what we're gonna do. Here what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. Me and Errol definitely are going yard. I know Kevin don't need no inveigling to go yard. Yeah? And for those of you who don't know what inveigling, that's a Jamaican word. Yeah? You make it out to go along. So what we're gonna do, Sherry, we're gonna invite you so you can have proper jerk chicken. Yeah? You come over, we have more than enough place for your stay, and we'll all have a jerk chicken. My plan is slightly different from Errol. Yeah, because I don't think I can reach all the way to Hellshire. So I'm going to take a right turn and go Gloria's, the original Gloria's.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's as far as I can reach. I don't unpack a single bag. Look, guys, it's been really, really nice talking to you all, as it always is. Sherry, you know two up on most people. Kevin, thank you so much for your time. I know you have to pop off anyway, but really grateful for your time. Errol, look, it's always a pleasure. And it's great to have your input and your insight. And I'm sure there are people online on my page who are interested in finding out more about investing, not just in Jamaica, obviously, but as Temi said, there's a very strong, active stock exchange in Trinidad, as one would expect. I'm sure there's one going on in Barbados, but I think the leaving message that I'd like to leave everybody with is we can't knock people for going there and investing, because people are investing because they think the grass is green. So the thing for us is for us to invest, for us to start to promote our countries, to promote the Caribbean as a place. Sometimes we're our own worst enemy, the way we talk about where we're from. And I remember talking to some people who are from Jamaica and them saying, boy, them afraid to go home, them afraid for this. And on my last trip, and people like Kevin and Errol will know this road I'm talking about. I'm talking about the road that goes between Discovery Bay up to Brownstown.
Indeed.
And after you pass Brownstown, now you're going over. And I see two young ladies, two white ladies who clearly them think it's Balam High Street, them depend. And them just there await upon a taxi. And I'm thinking to myself, and imagine people born and grow afraid of Jamaica. Yeah. We need to just realize that it's not the same as the UK. It's different. Different rules apply. But people are going there. People are going to Trinidad. People are going home to Barbados, St. Vincent, Grenada, St. Lucia, Guyana, Jamaica, and they are living them lives out happily, and we never hear about them. We never read about them. Them just doing them thing. Thank you guys very, very much. I'm 12 minutes over my time, but it's been a great pleasure having you guys. Have a great afternoon. And Mr. Donna, I see you put up some big cooking, like a chef.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Brilliant.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye, Paul. Have a good one.
See you next